Okay, so now that I've shown you these three tips, three things that you can do to improve your deep defense, I want to show some clips of us and demonstrate them in ultimate situations with our guys against some of these cutters. So in this first clip, we're gonna watch Kenny versus Babbitt here, and it's obviously a very very strong deep cutter, probably the strongest in the league, right? In Babbitt. And I think, unfortunately for Kenny, probably a mismatch if he does go deep. And so we're going to watch him defend Babbitt on this play. So Babbitt is not quite up in the lane. He would be the secondary cutter or the read in our offense here. And I want you to stop, pause the video, and take a second to grade Kenny's positioning here. Is it good? Is it bad? Or could it be a little better? So I would rate this as, unfortunately for Kenny, some bad positioning because it kind of goes against the first tip where you don't ever want to be caught being too deep defending our cutter. Because even though Babbitt is a really strong deep cutter, and Kenny's positioning here is going to make it really challenging for Babbitt just to go deep, what it does is it allows them to churn so many under yards up that we're not really being competitive in this space. Number one. And number two, as we'll show here, is like in order to close this gap, Kenny's got to turn his momentum down, and Babbitt can then turn this into a deep cut. So we're going to watch Babbitt make this, undercut. It's actually not even an undercut. It's actually like kind of angled up, and so he gains a bunch of yards. And so it starts here. And he generates like 30 yards of offense right here. And don't look at like Kenny lays out and is like close to getting this bid, but it's mostly because Babbitt's not running as hard as he could and is a little greedy kind of getting up these yards. And the other part too, if we pause the video right here, is that so the disc goes up, so Kenny knows that he can commit. But if this had been a pump fake, right, and Kenny is flying in, he's going as hard as he can under. Babbitt's actually kind of angled up, and Kenny's also even going towards this inside shoulder. If this had been a pump fake and the disc doesn't go into the air, Babbitt has the ability to just turn this into a deep cut and leave Kenny in the dust, right? If he just turns it here, he's going to generate probably a good like 5 to 10 yards of separation on Kenny, which would be really, really hard. So while we want to generate some depth, we don't want to generate too much. The second clip I wanted to show is this one. And in this one, we're going to be watching Jakeem, who's coming down. He's right here. And it's Jakeem on Wilson Matthews. And we'll stop it right here. And I want you to do the same thing with Kenny. I'll pause the video right now and rate how strong you think this positioning is. Good, bad, or could use improvement. And I think that Jakeem's positioning here is really, really good because the difference between this clip and the last clip where Kenny wanted to force him under, but maybe not as much as he was, is that Jakeem is a stronger deep defender than Wilson Matthews is a deep cutter. So he can be really aggressive with his positioning and to like make it hard for him to cut under and to force him out. The other thing I really like about his positioning is if you look, even though he's forcing him away, his hips are pointed towards the end zone. So he can break out of this if Matthews does go deep and close that gap really, really fast. And so if he turns, because he kind of has that first reactor's advantage and he does have like a step, like a positioning, he can generate a step or two, but it's going to be a really, really hard completion. And we'll watch this out here. And even though it's like he does get a little open, this would have been a very, very challenging completion because he has to hit it right and try, or else Jakeem is going to come up from behind and make that block. Okay, and our third clip, this is also from that Raleigh game, and we are going to watch Tyler versus Mataraju right here. And so we're going to watch Tyler. He comes here, and you'll notice that as he's coming under for this inside, if this throw were to come up, he is coming for the block on this inside shoulder, which I think for this matchup could be, is okay. But especially when we're guarding like Babbitt or Fairfax, a lot of times these undercuts are not even really undercuts. They are like setting you up to try to go deep. And so what you'll watch happen is because Tyler is positioning himself to try to get this block in the under, watch what happens when Mataraju just turns to go deep. is he rips that belt, he gets a lot of separation, and now he's generated about 8 yards of separation into the deep space. And the throw kind of floats. Tyler gets a chance to make a throw, but with this much separation, it takes a bad throw for Tyler to kind of get back in there. And had he attacked this undercut on the outside shoulder, when Matarazzo goes to turn, he's not going to be able to generate that separation on Tyler. Here is another example from our game against Austin of like that exact same principle. And we're going to watch Hinkie and Langdon right here. And we're going to watch kind of a very, like the exact same thing, basically, where Hinkie's going to come down here. Langdon is going to follow and try to defend this undercut. And he's going to try to get this would-be block on the inside shoulder. So when Hinkie turns, he's not in position to defend the deep cut. And he's got 6 yards of separation and is going to generate a pretty easy deep cut because the throw is like floated. It's not even really good, but it's a great way for them to like generate a first goal in overtime. And then our last clip we got here, and we're going to focus on Justin versus Fairfax. Pause the video and rate Justin's positioning, either good, bad, or needs improvement. I saw this one. I think is better than some of the other ones I've shown, but I would still say that this could use improvement. And notice here how Fairfax is like facing this sideline, so he can go in either direction very quickly. He can break and come under here, or he can break and come under here. Whereas Justin is forcing him under, but has his hips pointed more down. So Justin can make a break to these under spaces pretty quickly. However, in order to go away, he's got to like turn and clear his hips, which is behind him. And so he's going to be a little slower. So I think one thing that Justin can do that would put him in a slightly better position would be maybe to take a half step off to kind of help his vision, but to position himself like facing, or his hips kind of parallel to Fairfax, where he is facing Jacob and his hips are kind of more parallel to the sideline. So he can make a break on an undercut or on a deep cut as quickly as possible. And you'll watch what happens here is Justin is one of our most explosive defenders, maybe our most explosive defender. And you'll watch from here to the start of the deep cut to where he gets on this red line. He kind of goes a little out of frame here. He wins kind of an 8-step race by 2 steps. So he was a foot under or a step underneath him when he was on that red line, and in about 5 or 6 yards, he's now a step behind him. So if Justin had positioned his hips a little better, he could have potentially opened him up, gone with him, and prevented him from getting that step. Because once a strong deep cutter like Fairfax, or if you're guarding at chain practice, Dean or Brett, gets that one step, that's all they need, because a good throw is going to be completed and a bad throw is going to be a 50-50 ball. So if it's 50-50, it's a good throw or not. Now this is a 75% hike to a really strong deep receiver once they've gotten that step on you.